Hello, Perfect Death Ryan here, bringing another video that's not Ragnarok Online Mobile. In this video, I'm going to talk about Shadow Empire Planetary Conquest. I describe it as a 4X grand strategy turn-based game. And in this game, you actually generate a planet that it automatically generates all of the terrain on it, tiles. It even figures out some stuff like where tectonic plates are, and ultimately, this planet's history. There's a big galactic apocalypse, civil war thing that happens, and so it's kind of a post-apocalyptic start, and then you get to go be a 4x little empire that builds out from your starting city to eventually take over the planet. Hopefully that's what you can accomplish, except this game has a lot of depth to it, and kind of has some similarities to what you might expect from a grand strategy game like Paradox's, Hearts of Iron, but this one is still quite different in its own ways, and there's just a ton of stuff that you can do. So I started out with this city here, which was Neutronia, or Neutron Flats, I think it was, and this city will have, population. You have your regular population, and you have a working population who get recruited by the state to do stuff like that. And then they have different happinesses. And then you have assets, and these various assets you can build and construct. Some of them the civilian population will actually build, and then they will maintain those and work those, and those will give you little bonuses as well. And then there's some like hex tiles that will appear that are like little bonuses. So, like an ecological station here that gives education points, an ancient statue which gives political power, things like that. And so when you go through, you go into like your construction, you can build different kinds of assets and upgrade them. So in this city here, you can build even more things. I can choose to upgrade stuff. Currently, I am actually upgrading the heavy industry here, which is this guy. He's a tier 1, and I'm currently upgrading him to tier 2. And that will go down to tier 5, where you get, it requires even more workers, materials, but you produce a lot more stuff. Actually, it goes down to tier, come on, goes all the way down to here. You can acquires, shows you what it needs, what it produces. So there's a lot of upgrades that you can do to build upwards in here, or you can go and sort of build outwards. I ended up, when I started out here, I went over and conquered Lemont, and then I expanded around. I've had to create a couple of new zones, because I found that when you have assets built outside the city, if it's beyond 6 tiles, it will have a penalty, an efficiency penalty that will add on to that zone. So I almost had a economic shutdown because I forgot about that and wasn't paying attention, and so I ended up setting up like Lusac here and Jolene, and just recently I set up Moatfield, because over here there's a whole bunch of these metal resources and rare metals, and another metal here, and then a hydro turbine, which for some reason exists on a desert planet. I'm not complaining about getting 200 free power though. So you then have your armies. My armies have basically been marching around. I've kind of built some of the road infrastructure. started out with a road going across here to connect them from the old pre-apocalypse infrastructure. I then paved it at some point recently. I did try to build a railroad, but these dunes are ridiculously expensive. So if I try to go the railroad, right, it's like 1,000 metal and industrial points for each of these, whereas normally it's like 42, and then across a little bit of desert it's 120. I can almost afford it with the industry points here. I need a lot more metal though if I wanted to build that, but I just went around. So your infrastructure is really important in this game. To show that, you have these logistic points here. This game is largely about logistics. That can win or lose you a fight. So initial points here shows how much I started out at the start of the turn with points here. So I can see along here it's a little over 2,000 going up this road. Over here it's a little more because the road is paved better, it's not a dirt road. And so that will determine the potential logistics there. I've actually built up a little bypass for the railroad, and I did that because when I was looking at my usage, I found that this area was getting bottlenecked. Right, you can see the black means that it's really bottlenecked because there's only so much logistic stuff that can go through here, and so that bottleneck became a big problem, and I was using a lot of the points. So my current points here, you can see with this one, the green means you have logistic points. The smaller it gets, the less you have, and there's pretty much no logistic points in my capital. So things, the resources and stuff that are moving around would get to here, and then they would get stopped because there's just not enough logistical ability to move things. I've actually been working on upgrading the railroad, try to get more stuff through here. And in another area, I ended up going to war. There was, at the very start, this zone here was slaver territory, and slavers are no joke. They have a lot of motorized units, and if they feel like you're an easy target, they will just swarm at you. And they almost swarmed down for a while there. I had a stalemate with a small unit of buggies that was hanging around in this area, and I just surrounded it with infantry, encircled it so it couldn't move. Then the rest of his army backed off into this area, and then I gradually held him here and waited until I could build up a proper army to attack him. In the meantime, I bought slaves off of him, so I got population out of that, and he kept being okay. And meanwhile, I didn't quite realize it at the time, but he was bullying one of these other major factions that was really close by. And so this guy was he only really held territories around here, and then his territory had to bypass, because there's a starting road here, but the slaves took this tile. So he had to bypass that around here in order to then go down and take over another city down here. After I took out the slavers and I set up a garrison over here, I went over to this side because one of my factions wanted me to conquer this city. So I did. This guy then decided he was going to declare war on me. Fortunately, before I fought the slavers, I deliberately waited until I could get these light armor corps set up. So you can see these are light armor regiments here. And these guys each, I have 5 of them per one for this corps here. This corps is then multiple of these regiments. So I had this corps of light armor, which took over that one city over here, or down here, Republic. And then they came back over here while my infantry just sort of held off. This guy wonder if I can find if he still has it. Yeah. So he has this posture enabled on a bunch of his troops. No retreat. So it's 75% infantry defense, minus 75% attack, and then they can't retreat. At least retreat in normal conditions. So this made him really hard to deal with without, tanks. And then he did something really troll. He went and, just as I started to bring up my tanks and started to make my actual push, he goes and just recruits a giant stack of anti-tank guns. It says 480 here, but it started out as like 600 or 700. Yeah, I think it was 600 because he spawned a division, right? So he went to his capital, and when you recruit units, you just go raise formation, and he went for an independent division of, where is it? Anti-tank. So he had 720 anti-tank guns, right? Because I could spawn the same thing, right? So he had a bunch of manpower and stuff all stockpiled, and he just called that in first thing. And there was nothing I could really do with, my smaller groups. These guys here, they are comparative size. They would be like they're regiments here. So he had a division turtled away inside of here, surrounded by a bunch of infantry. So there was no way I was going to take him out, even though these guys have a little bit of an artillery. This is just a 40 millimeter howitzer. And we can see that this guy's his anti-tank guns are 180 millimeter high velocity guns. These are really big guns that he just snapped into existence in one turn. Now, he can't just continuously do that. He burnt up a lot of his manpower and resources doing that. But it was his emergency situation. His neighbor, the green guy, also started to invade him. So this guy got kind of double whammed. There's a big mountain range, so this green guy hasn't really been able to do much. So I've just been moving down here to clean up. Got some stuff here. There's been a bit of a rebellion. One group of rebels for this guy that I occupied spawned and took over the mine here. And that mine, I think the AI cheated, because you're not allowed to build multiple mines in one hex, right? You just build one and then you upgrade it, and he has 3. He cheats. This place gives a huge amount of metal. So I was making a ton of metal until that rebel showed up and then ran over here and occupied the land. So fortunately I have fast tanks and lots of infrastructure. A lot of this infrastructure didn't exist when I started this fight. It was just a dirt road. But then I realized that my tanks were going to need a lot more. My infantry was going to need, they're all going to need food, weapons, and there wasn't enough infrastructure to bring the logistics along. So I did a couple of things. One is I researched the technology for sealed roads, which is what these are called. And so I built one of these to increase the output. I then also built a parallel road to help carry. And then I think I upgraded, I might have upgraded this one from a 2 to a 3 at that time to get more trucks, because the trucks can bring the logistics on roads, trains bring it along rails. I also built in note salt here. There's a supply base, and this acts to extend the logistic of trucks. So what'll happen is, as the vehicles move along, they use up action points, right? That's the to move logistics along, they require action points to go a certain distance, and this will sort of give a little bit of a boost to how far they can go, so that it could help to push things along. And I also built the road down here, connected it up to some of his road infrastructure. I also built a bypass here. This one is designed to connect directly on a rail to this city I just conquered so that I can get production. I can start building buildings in here soon. The railroad is almost done here. Once it's done, then, you know, when you want to build something in another city, you need to get the manpower and the resources. And so right now this city is having a hard time getting things built because well, this says workers, and I think that's just because they're not happy with me. So yeah, he's paying his workers pretty well, so I might just boost the workers' salary. There we go, very high morale. So hopefully it goes up more, but I think they're still a bit upset because of the unrest, danger, and because I just recently conquered this place. So, and there's a lot more to talk about still too. So yeah, things like unit types. You start off with just like infantry, machine gun, trucks, buggies, motorbike, and that's it. And to get new things, you have to, I'll show it in here, you have different organizations. You start off with none if you choose that option, except for the Supreme Council, and this guy will give you political points and research stratagems for you, or generate stratagems. And then you have like the Economic Council, which is usually a good first pick because it gives you a lot of the research you need early on and discovers those research technologies. Next, usually you go for the military research one to start researching military techs because you need those if you want to discover new models, which is here. This guy, he will discover the new models, but you need the tech prerequisite in order for him to discover it, and then you can design the model. When you design a model, you get to choose some of the basic parts that go into it. So, like when I was talking about the AT guns, this is my AT gun, right? Just a little 25mm high velocity gun, right? Compared to, you know, this guy, he splurged and he decided to go for 180mm. So his are way more expensive. They consume way more ammo. So that's like a 3, I think, and then, yeah, mine is just tiny. So I went for like a cheap equipment, cheap equipment. My tanks are like 25mm howitzer with, 5mm of armor with a light diesel engine. And I have 2 of these. I have a high velocity one, a 25mm high velocity, and one with a howitzer. So one's better for soft targets, the other's a little better for hard. But they're so poorly armored and armed that they wouldn't really put up much of a fight. So these poor tanks, this gun is overkill against my tanks. This thing is like designed to take out heavy tanks. So currently I built a division of artillery with motorized vehicles designed to just haul them over here and then to start trying to shell them, see if that'll help, because this guy's really entrenched. But these are my little 40mm howitzers, so they're not that strong. I was originally going to use missiles because I had researched a missile launcher, and I was like, cool, let's research the missile launcher and use them. But I think, where is... So there we go, missile launcher. Go into more info. And right here it says that it has an extremely inefficient engine. So its engine takes up like ridiculous amounts of fuel. So when you do a design, it'll give random value rolls on the design. And over here the engine is, the engine design is a 68. That's the roll that it got. And in comparison, Where is my light tanks? Let's just pick this guy. Design log. His engine design is a 97, so this guy's a much better engine design, which is why it says that it has an adequate engine, right? This one has an adequate engine. And this has an inadequate engine, so this was going to cost way too much fuel to operate, so I gave up on using him, even though he has a medium conventional missile payload, which is the in-between. There's three that they gave me the option for. The main reason for this is that he has a firing range of 5. The rocket launcher has a range of 2, and the artillery has a range of 1. That means that, you know, this artillery guy here, he can do a ranged attack on this area, and everybody here who doesn't have artillery cannot shoot back. So this artillery gun can shoot back. These are artillery guns. They can shoot back at me if it's within this 1 hex range. So I was looking to bombard them with rockets or missiles, but unfortunately those units actually require machines, right? These ones require a lot of machines if I wanted a division strength of them. These are much cheaper, plus I also used a very minimum loadout for these guys here. Well, this is more of a medium loadout. And yeah, so I think what I'll just end up doing is probably brute force. It says he's got full supplies, so that's largely because he hasn't been fighting me. Though you can see that his anti-tank guns have no supply, so he's pretty much starved in here. I don't know any of his stats because I don't have enough, you know, recon knowledge. But he doesn't really have, like, he doesn't have any. He has this that's producing a little bit of food. So he might be able to feed his army because of that. I don't think he has any water, so he might not be able to produce any food in his farms, though. Civilian farms actually don't care about that. So I do have a civilian farm here, and he does not consume water. It assumes that because it's a civilian that they acquire their resources on their own, right? Though they produce less for you, they produce a bunch for the civilian market, though. And the civilian market is over here, where you can buy and sell. And actually, I have a lot of water stockpiled, but it's at such a low price, nobody wants to buy my water. Oh well. It's a desert world, guys. We have too much water. So I'll probably be able to brute force him, I think. Currently, yeah, I just recently moved a bunch of my units into position. I had some of these guys with their artillery guns take pot shots, so if I go to attack, I can choose to bring a bunch of stuff in. With what I have right now available, it's not very good odds. But again, he's pretty short on supply, so I don't think I'd be too much of have too much of a problem against him. And aside from that, there is, yeah, I might as well just also show the tech tree here. So when you get a tech tree unlocked, you'll have to discover it, and so there will be a random chance that you will discover something, and that chance only gets higher the more points you invest into that that discovery, and then it will just randomly pick one that's available when it hits that full point count. And once that happens, so like my military will either get heavy armor or atomic missiles, tactical nukes, things like that. It can randomly pick one of those. It'll then be highlighted as available to research, then I can research it. So currently I'm researching high-tech industries, and that will give me the other resource type here, this one, which I am getting because there's some ruins. Where are you? This one. This ruin is actually producing, over in Lemont, he is producing a very small, it doesn't say it here in this list, but it is available in there, where he will occasionally generate a high-tech part out of this. There's also just regular scavenging hex, and then there's these artifacts here. There's also artifacts here that I'm excavating as well. So, and I think I have another one way up here I can work on. So aside from that, I'll show the stratagems as well. These are the cards, a lot of your organizations that we showed over here. A lot of them will generate stratagems, and these are these cards. And so you can like go into here, you can recruit new leaders, or you can, these bad cards will give you, something bad, but they'll give you these faith points. Then you can use faith points to get some pretty powerful things, like here I can get a chemical weapon missile vehicle, and you can attach some of these to units. Example of this would be this army here. I've got like a paladin for a cult and political truck. So like this paladin boosts attack on the offense. So there's a bunch of different things that you can do to also customize, each of your little units. Some of these will also be given to you randomly as well, and they are not based on this. Your different things over here. Instead, it's based on your sort of government organization. So as you do every turn, they'll give you options for events, and some of these events will give you points into these different groups. So right now I'm mostly a democratic commerce society focused on the mind. So I'm getting like research bonuses, economy bonuses, and like political bonuses. And over here we can see what those actually give you. So right now I have like, with mind, I'm only up to this tier here. With commerce I'm up to here. So in commerce I get these corporate officers that can sometimes spawn in an army, or he can embed them, which boosts readiness. Then there's like this one here, I've got a secondant, which gives leaders a higher role in the embedded group that they're in, or this one here, which gets enemies to possibly retreat. You find some other ones like military police if you go down enforcement, which will give its own little bonuses there, or like medic teams. So it's really hard to get to the really late tiers of these because a lot of these options are very random. So you can try to go all like democracy, but it's really hard to get past this fourth tier here. So I end up just fluctuating back and forth, because a big part of that is as you make choices, some of these will counteract the others. So the more commerce I do, the less government I have. I think I originally started out high in government, so I do still get some government bonuses, but only 2 of them. And so eventually you'll get these little decisions that'll pop up in here, and those can, be really annoying. Some of them I've failed rolls on massively. Like I've failed 2 rolls as critical failures on the governor for this city right here, which has resulted in a lot of unrest. resulted in these rebels spawning and resulted in population dying. So this city has had a rough time. The population was higher than this. But I do eventually, I will be developing this place, you know, pushing my way down here. I don't think he might have something down here. We'll have to see what he's got. This neighboring guy over here, he's actually pretty friendly with me. Sort of. He was friendlier. Maybe he got mad. I used to be able to see like all of his roads, so he might have soured his opinion because he is an isolationist, and I had an event where his isolationist faction started doing events to counteract me. One of the other guys is this dude over here. He's hostile, but he's not at war with me. He doesn't seem like he's gonna go to war. There's like no infrastructure for him to invade me. I think this is just really far away from his main territories, so he's just grabbing empty barren land and then building roads. So, and I've been kind of trying to also go down here and see what I can grab as well. But he's been making a push along here to grab territory. I've tried sending a couple of spies where you go here and then you click on them. Difficulty, probably gonna fail. Oh, hooray, that was the first time I succeeded in getting a spy into him. So eventually what that'll do is it'll give me a little bit of recon, and so I might be able to see some things inside, but not really too much from just one spy. And I'm also going to be expanding more up top here. I got the infrastructure set up, set up this place, got a railroad, and I think, yeah, I got the truck station here, but since this is new, he has pretty low population, so I've been getting these colonists, and yeah, here we go. Come on, colonize. Oh, I know why. I can't send the colonists because the route for the colonists to go from here out, there's no logistics, right? So there's no logistics, so I can't actually bring anybody out. It's so bottlenecked right around here. Yeah, I also built this railroad here to go around as well. But I think a good idea would be to do a road like that, because this has a bunch of privatized logistics buildings inside of it. I could piss people off and get it state funded, but I actually just built them outside. So I could, yeah, this is only a tier 1. I don't need the supply base here upgraded at all. But the truck station I could definitely upgrade. It's only going to cost 2 rounds of 100 of these each, so that's 200 metal and machinery. And just to make sure, because I've got a bit of worker problems, but it's mostly resource problems, I think. Yeah, I don't really have any problems with this guy. He's got a lot of free population that's not currently being workers. So I can go into here and I can upgrade this to a tier 2 truck station. So he will go from how much? So currently he has 1,000 truck power with 100 truck action points. If I upgrade him, he'll only gain about 5 action points on his trucks, but he will gain 3,000 more truck power. And that means more stuff can be moved along by the roads. Largely, a lot of the resources here are being moved by the trains. So but you can see the train networks are just overloaded around here. I've been upgrading the train station in Limont to try and help out as well. And yeah, so I think it would be a good idea, because I think Limont is also, yeah, he's also got a privatized truck industry, which I built a truck station over in Cokedale to try to help out by having more truck logistics over here, truck logistics here. But yeah, I'm just gonna go and upgrade you. There we go. So I'd say that'd be about it for describing this game. There's a lot of stuff to this, especially if you wanted to get into things like your leaders and all their crazy and wild stats and yeah. So that'll be it for this video. Take care.